Hello and welcome to Into the Woods with Holly Worton. This podcast has evolved over the 5+ years since it first launched. From now on, I'm going to be talking about deepening your connection with yourself, taking inspired action, and really trusting yourself and your intuition. And also mindset, of course, but mindset of all kinds, not just business mindset. I think. Things are changing for me, as you may have noticed if you've been following me online or listening to this podcast, so anything goes here. I hope you stay along for the ride. Thank you so much for joining us today, and now let's get into this week's episode. Hello and welcome to the Into the Woods podcast, episode 334. This is your host, Holly Worton, and I'm back with another solo episode. Today, I'm going to talk about how to let go of toxic people in your life and distance yourself from toxic people, not just physically, but also letting go of them in your head. But before I get into today's episode, I would like to mention a couple of podcasts that I've been recently a guest on. So the first one is the Smart Conversations with Yvonne DeVita. It's a podcast, but it's also a video, and I will link to that in the show notes. We had a really good chat about my latest book, If Trees Could Talk, and all kinds of other things. I was also on the Honest Uproar podcast with Isabel Firecracker, and that was another really good conversation. We talked about travel, we talked about writing the book, and we talked about being child-free. This is a child-free podcast. So if you find any of those topics interesting, the links will be in the show notes, or I have created pretty links so you can access them easily. So the Honest Uproar podcast with Isabel Firecracker can be accessed at hollywharton.com/firecracker. And Smart Women Conversations with Yvonne DeVita can be accessed via hollywharton.com/smart. So that's where I've been hanging out. And let's get back to today's episode. So how to let go of toxic people, not only in your life, but in your mind. And this episode is inspired by something mildly embarrassing that just happened to me. So I had planned this evening to record this podcast episode. And I have a list of podcast topics that I've come up with and that people have given me. And I was looking through them and I couldn't really think of something that I wanted to talk about on that list. And I was kind of at a loss for a topic. And then I was going online and I was sharing this week's episode. And I got on Instagram and I saw something. It was an Instagram post from my previous business. And I thought, you know what? I don't want to be following this. I don't want to have this in my life. I'm going to let go of this. So I went to unfollow it. And then I saw a link somehow for my ex-business partner and his Instagram profile. So I did what any reasonable person would tell you not to do, and I clicked on it. And I kind of went through the last few posts, and it just, it bothered me. It's like, I saw this person creating this profile and this kind of public image of being like super, successful and spiritual, and it just really bothered me, knowing this person as I know him, knowing how toxic he is, knowing what a toxic narcissist and quite probably a psychopath he is. So, it just, to be honest, it didn't bother me as much as it would have a few years ago, but it was, I would like to have a neutral feeling when I come across these things. So I clicked away, I only spent a couple minutes going through his profile, managed to click away, but I was still bothered by that. And I thought, you know what? Like, I've disconnected mostly from this person. We still have a business connection, but we communicate through an intermediary. So I don't have direct connection with this person, but clearly it still bothers me. Clearly I'm still bothered by this person, and I would really like to disconnect even more, and I would really like to feel just neutral and detached and not bothered. And I know that might sound like a big ask of myself if you really knew the full story. I know I've hinted at this story quite a bit, but it's not something that I'm really willing to go into the details of. It was bad. And distancing myself from this person has really changed my life in a fantastic and powerful and very positive way. So I started taking some notes on advice that I would give someone else and also myself, because whenever I do these episodes, I'm not just talking to you, I'm also talking to myself, because I'm still learning and I'm still tweaking stuff in my life and I'm still figuring stuff out. So I feel like I've come a long way in terms of letting go of this toxic person and other toxic people in my life, but I still have things that I could do and I still have things that I can learn. So let's get into today's episode. I really think that the first step to letting go of toxic people is to decide to let go, to make the decision to let go of this person. And most importantly, to give yourself permission to let go of this person. And I think a lot of times we hold on to people and we hold on to toxic situations because we're afraid of being rude, or we're afraid of being impolite, or we're afraid of doing the wrong thing. But I think you know when you're better off without someone. I think you know when someone's presence in your life is making your life more difficult and more painful than their absence would be. And I think in these situations, you don't owe these people anything. So I encourage you, if there's anyone popping into your mind as you listen to this, give yourself permission to let go of this person. Give yourself permission to let go of this person in your life and in your head. Give yourself permission to let go of this person taking up your head space, your mind space, your thoughts. And that's easier said than done. And this can take time. I have been distancing myself from this person for the last 10 years. Again, this person has been mostly out of my life for 9 of those years. But there's still some connections, and those are connections that I'm working on getting rid of for my own peace of mind. So decide to let go of this person or people. And I think the next step is to, if you feel like you are the victim in this situation, and I certainly did for a long time, choose to stop playing that role. Choose to stop being the victim. And take responsibility for your role in co-creating this situation. So as I said, this person was abusive, physically, mentally, emotionally. And I still take responsibility for getting myself into that situation, for staying in that situation for the time that I did, and ultimately for leaving that situation. And I also take responsibility for still holding on to these ties, which are business connections. But I'm still, I've still got that. I haven't yet cut those ties. I need to take responsibility for co-creating that situation because it takes 2 people to form a relationship, to create a situation like this together, to create a situation in which this toxic person is causing you trouble, discomfort, whatever. So I feel like a long time ago, I stepped out of that role of being the victim and stopped seeing myself as the victim. And I was able to take responsibility for co-creating that situation. But I think this is something that's really challenging for a lot of people. And I don't really remember what the process was like for me, but I don't think it was easy. And I think a lot of people wait for an apology. They really want to have an apology from this person. And they want this other person to acknowledge that they were wrong and that you were right. And I think it's really important to also let go of that need, to let go of that want. People who are really toxic won't apologize. I mean, if we're talking about someone who is someone with, narcissistic personality disorder, they are not going to apologize for you because they can't see themselves having done something wrong. I mean, I heard for years that I should always apologize for things, even if I didn't think I'd done something wrong, because probably I did, but I just didn't know it. So these people, toxic people, narcissists, they won't apologize ever because they can't see that they have ever done anything wrong, because in their eyes, they are the victim, they are perfect, and everyone else is wrong. Everyone else is bad. They don't take responsibility for the chaos and the shit that they bring to this world. So don't wait for them to acknowledge that they were wrong and that you were right, because it's not going to happen. And if you continue to wait for that apology, you continue to wait for that acknowledgement, you're never going to get it. And you're not going to be able to let go of these people. And, there's a part, I know this. So I'm saying this to you, I know this. I've been reading a lot of books lately about psychopathy and about the covert passive-aggressive narcissist. I'll link to those books in the show notes, but I've been mentioning them in my emails. I've been reading this. I know this. And at the same time, there's a part of me that wants this person to just recognize how horrible he is. I know that's not going to happen, but there's a part of me that still wants it. So do yourself a favor, acknowledge that you're not going to get the apology, and allow yourself to move on. So start by creating physical distance. I have created physical distance from this person over the last decade. It's been 10 years since I saw him. That is fantastic. That feels really good. But if you're still in touch with this person, try to let it fizzle out. And I also want to say, stay safe. If this person is dangerous, if you are in an abusive relationship, get help, get support, get professional help, get the support that you need to do this safely. I'm kind of going to assume here that you are not going to be in physical harm if you distance yourself from this toxic person. If you are in danger, please get professional help. Be safe. So, if you can, create physical distance. If you're still in touch with this person, just let it fizzle out. There's no need to formally break up with a friendship. If this is a romantic relationship, yeah, probably you're going to have to formally end things with them. But in addition to creating physical distance, it's also important to create online distance. So unfriend the person, unfollow the person, block them online. I remember when I unfriended him on Facebook, I knew he wasn't even active on Facebook. And this was 10 years ago. And I remember it was a big deal for me to unfriend him, even though I knew he didn't use Facebook. But it was I felt oh God, what if he sees and he gets angry and I get yelled at? But I did it anyway. I cannot believe it has taken me this long to unfollow the Instagram account of my previous business. Part of me really liked seeing how, things were changing and growing. And that's a part of my life that, I am proud of and I liked. But it's also painful, which is why today when I saw that update, I thought, and I unfollowed. Block them if you need to. For a couple of years after I distanced myself from this person, I would occasionally get emails, business-related emails. And, oh God, I would see his name in my inbox, and it was just like a knife in my stomach. It was, I would just think, my God, what is this? What is he saying? I can't deal with this. So if you can block them, do. If you have that horrible knot in your gut when you see an email, a text, a whatever from this person, block them if you can. Healthy people, healthy relationships don't give you that horrible knife in the gut or knot in the gut or whatever you want to call it. Healthy relationships don't cause that. So it's usually the toxic ones that do. So create the physical distance, create the online distance, but also allow yourself to feel the feelings, even when you judge them as being negative. So whether you're angry or you're sad or you're hurt, don't repress those feelings because it's not going to do you any good. Don't wallow in the feelings either. Don't get lost in the feelings, but allow the feelings to be felt. One thing that I've mentioned before is sitting in the whole brain posture, which I can't teach you that, but if you Google it, you will find YouTube videos on it. It's very easy to do, and if you've worked with Psych K, you will know what that is. Sit in the whole brain posture as you feel those feelings and allow that position, that way of sitting, to help you transmute those feelings into something neutral. That can be really, really useful. Again, I can't teach that to you, but if you search for whole brain posture, you will find videos online. that can be a good way to help you to feel the feelings and not get lost in them, not get sucked down a black hole of crap, and just allow yourself to more easily move on. Also, I think it can be helpful to acknowledge what you learned from this person or this situation. Maybe do some journaling. And again, don't allow yourself to get sucked into this too much. We're trying to kind of flip the situation on its head and see what you learned. So I learned a lot of things from this person, this situation, this relationship. I won't go into them now, but there have been positive things that I got out from. More than anything, I realized that I am super strong. I don't ever want to get myself into a situation like that again, or get into a relationship of any kind with a person like that again, but I know how strong I am. Like, I can feel my strength. So acknowledge what you've learned. No matter how crappy the situation was or the person or how toxic they were, there's something you've learned, even if it's just, damn, I'm strong, I survived that. The next step, and if this isn't linear, like do this in whatever order feels right for you, take what serves you, leave what doesn't serve you. I think forgiveness is really important. So, forgiveness can be something that we resist. Forgiveness can be really hard. And I've said this in the past, but you are not forgiving them for them. Like, you don't even have to tell them that you're forgiving them. You are forgiving them to create peace within yourself. And there's a process or a technique that you can use called Ho'oponopono, which I will link to in the show notes, which I find really useful. I have done this in multiple occasions with this person in the past, and I feel like it's helped me to kind of get this person out of my mind more. And I think more importantly, even than forgiving this other person or people, is to forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for co-creating this relationship with this person. Forgive yourself for co-creating the situation with them. Forgive yourself for getting involved with a person that was so toxic and painful. Life is about learning, and sometimes lessons are shitty. Forgive yourself for getting involved with these toxic people. And again, you can use Ho'oponopono, you can use whatever forgiveness technique works for you. So the important thing is to forgive yourself. I think it's really, really important. I think this is something that we forget when we think about forgiveness exercises. So forgive them. If you can, forgive yourself. And if you find it really hard to forgive the other person, start with forgiving yourself, and then maybe forgiving them will be easier. Next, and again, this is not linear, I think it's really important to recognize that you can only control your behavior, your thoughts, and your feelings. So when you're looking to distance yourself from toxic people in your life, toxic people in your mind, it's important to recognize this because that's taking back your power. It's controlling the things that you can control. And conversely, you need to accept the things that you cannot control or change. And that is pretty much everything to do with the other person. You can't control their behavior. You can't control their thoughts. You can't control their feelings. So don't try to. Think about, what do you want instead? So you've got this toxic person in your life that you're working on letting go of. What do you want instead? Focus on that. So how do you want to feel? Is it peace of mind? Do you want to attract more kind of healthy relationships into your life? What do you want instead of this relationship with this toxic person or having these toxic people in your life? What do you want instead? Focus on that. And focus on you. Take care of yourself as you are distancing yourself from these toxic people. Focus on self-care. Focus on self-love. I've done episodes on these things. But I think it's really important to, as you're distancing yourself, move your focus away from that person and onto you and caring for yourself and making yourself a priority. Also, it can help to focus on the healthy relationships in your life, the healthy people you have in your life, and get support from them. Call a friend, tell a friend, talk to someone. You can also get professional support. If you have a coach, if you have a therapist of some kind, get help, get support from healthy people. I hope that you have found this useful. again, this is something that was a little difficult for me to talk about because I really feel like after 10 years, I should have moved on more by now. I should be more distanced from this person. I should be disconnected. And that's a lot of shoulds. So if you're feeling shoulds, like you should be further along in your disconnection from this person or these people, just give yourself permission to be where you are. Stop being so hard on yourself and draw a line in the sand and start today with the things that you can change today. Think about always when you're in a situation that you're not happy with, that you don't like, think about what you would rather have instead. Visualize that and then start taking the steps you need to take to make that happen. So that is all for today. Please let me know if you have any questions. You can email me at holly@hollyworton.com or find me online and get in touch. Please let me know if you have any questions about, I don't know, how to get out of this situation. It's hard in, 20 to 30 minutes to give you a fully comprehensive plan, but I think this is a good way to get started. And it's certainly given me ideas for things that I can do to further distance myself from this person. So let me know if you have any questions. And thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe if you haven't already. And remember to visit hollyworton.com/334 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for listening to Into the Woods with Holly Worton. You can find more information about today's episode, including links for topics that were discussed, at hollyworton.com. That's HOLLYWORTON.com. If you'd like to connect with other listeners and get support on your journey, I would love for you to join my private community on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Holly Worton. That's patreon.com/Holly Worton. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you next week.